चन्द्रशेखरा गङ्गाधरा सुमनोहरा पाहि मां परमेश्वरा मृत्युञ्जय विश्वेश्वरा शङ्करा चन्द्रशेखरा गङ्गाधरा सुमनोहरा पाहि मां परमेश्वरा मृत्युञ्जय विश्वेश्वरा नीलकण्ठ भालनेत्र भस्मभूषित सुन्दरा पाहि मां करुणाकरा गिरिजेश ओंकारेश्वरा नीलकण्ठ भालनेत्र भस्मभूषित सुन्दरा पाहि मां करुणाकरा गिरिजेश ओंकारेश्वरा शङ्करा चन्द्रशेखरा गङ्गाधरा सुमनोहरा पाहि मां परमेश्वरा मृत्युञ्जय विश्वेश्वरा ताण्डव प्रिय जय नटेश विश्वनाथ महेश्वरा पाहि मां अभयङ्करा व्याघ्र चर्माम्बरधरा ताण्डव प्रिय जय नटेश विश्वनाथ महेश्वरा पाहि मां अभयङ्करा व्याघ्र चर्माम्बरधरा शङ्करा चन्द्रशेखरा गङ्गाधरा सुमनोहरा पाहि मां परमेश्वरा मृत्युञ्जय विश्वेश्वरा मृत्युञ्जय विश्वेश्वरा मृत्युञ्जय विश्वेश्वरा
सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। We are in the first mantra or the first anuvaka. We have seen till the till the word Jyotihi. Now proceeding further. Suvaschame, Suvaschame, Suvaha, Om Bhur Bhuvas Suvaha. Suvaha, the heavens. So may I be blessed by that heavens. Suvaschame. Now in the chamaka Prashna, the idea of invoking the Lord so that all that which is required by a seeker. Now why is the heavens required? Now in the heavens here, what it means is, even if I do not finish my prarabdha, and if there is something left, let me acquire enough punya that I at least reach to the Brahma Loka, Suvaha. There are two kinds of mukti. One is called Jivan Mukti and the second one is called the Krama Mukti. Jivan Mukti, Sadhyo Mukti, attaining that liberation, moksha, in this very life, here and now. Krama Mukti, on the other hand, is do not have enough prarabdha left for another life, but then haven't realized yet. It's a very funny situation. So such ones who have acquired enough punya, they reach to the Brahma Loka. Chaturanana, with his four heads, three of them engaged in the upper worlds, lower worlds and this world. With the fourth head, he has 24/7 satsanga. So aap decide karo. You want to have it here now with 1 hour satsanga, or you want to have it there with 24/7. The only triti, the only lack there is, having reached to the Brahma Loka does not assure anyone the guarantee of moksha either. How many of them who have reached to that Loka who have come back? We have Jaya Vijaya as a great example. When Nahusha becomes the Indra and he misbehaves being that Indra, he is again shapagrasta to come back into this world. So we have enough examples to say that being there is not an assurance. So that's Suvaha, Swargaha. Now continuing. Pranascha me, panascha me, vyanascha me. Prana, apana, vyana. They get mukti when Brahmaji finishes his time lapse at the end of the yuga. Until then, they'll stay with Brahmaji. But if there is any triti there, then they come back here. Pranaha, apanaha, vyanaha. Pranascha me, apanascha me, vyanascha me. And then asuhu, the vital air, the life breath. May I have the prana shakti in such a way that prana apana helps me in getting to vyana. It's a very technical language that is used here. I'll try to make it as understandable as possible. In the process of Hatha Yoga, in the process of the Ashtanga Yoga, it is said, it is also referred to in Bhagavad Gita many times, that prana apana samaukritva, prana and apana, bringing them together and balancing them in the Hridayakasha. So the vyana is adhogati, which is in the lower part. Prana is in the upper part. To bring the prana from the up and the vyana from the down and balancing it into the heart, Hridayakasha. Now, having done that process, then the next thing that happens is vyana. To understand vyana is easy. Van, what does van do? Transport. Similarly, vyana does the transporting from various standpoints. Circulatory system, so it transports good blood, pulls back all the bad blood. Then the food that we eat has to go through the process of combustion, bursting out energy, so that processing, and it has to reach to various limbs appropriately. We take medicines, and those medicines have to reach to the right set of organs of perception, action, and the internal organs. So that who transfers these is vyana on a very physical level. On the subtler level, balancing the prana and vyana, prana and apana, that is when sarva vyapti, all pervasiveness can be experienced. Prana apana, as Gurudev explains it, he says, I mean, not in this case here in the Rudram or Chamakam, but when he is explaining prana apana samaukritva, there he says, prana is all that which is taken as an input. Apana is all that which we act with out into the world, that which goes out from this system to the outside world. A balance in these two is called sthira buddhi. In that platform of sthira buddhi, when one meditates, what one experiences is inside and outside that supreme alone. Experiencing that individual as though is compelled, underlining as though. Like when you have a certain abscess or a wound somewhere on your body, it almost feels like when you're traveling or when you're interacting, people are purposefully hitting you there, touching you there. It is not that people have any ill intent. Casually, when you're going through your train or bus or wherever you're traveling, things may have touched, things may have brushed us on you, but we never pay attention. But that day when there is an abscess, it feels that all our conscious effort is around that place. And we instinctively try to protect the rest of the body by protecting that weak part. Similarly, the one who has experienced that oneness of all pervasiveness is compelled as though to reach out to all those where there is pain, sorrow, misery. To serve becomes their inherent nature. There are some who choose to serve being in that meditative plane. There are some who choose to express in the field of action. And both of them are equally a great and noble effort to serve. Just because somebody is sitting in a cave meditating does not mean that they are not offering or contributing to the rest of the cosmic presence or cosmic balance. In fact, there are various references wherein it is said that those, if they are not meditating, imagine what would have been the balance of the already imbalanced society. There have been a lot of experiments done. I think this was done in New York. I do not know the exact time frame, but there were about 5,000 people who were tasked to meditate, and they all assembled and started meditating. That 21-day period when that experiment was happening, the crime rate in New York fell down considerably to almost single digit. The claim was, there are different kinds of arguments in this particular thing, but the claim was that the effort put by these who are meditating, it impacts the cosmic balance. In fact, I would stretch it to an extent wherein I would say, instead of teaching the children different martial arts and different other skill sets, if the children at that young age are taught how to meditate, and this generation, I don't have a hope, at least for the next generation, if we have introduced them to the field of meditation and they have experienced that meditation right since they are 3.5, 4 years old, by the time that particular generation takes roots, there would be negligible amount of violence, negligible amount of any kinds of atrocity happening, because they are rooted in their own core of being. And that should have been the focus. That is how the Gurukula system was designed, to have that introduced at the age of 4. Now in our Hindu scriptures, that particular process was introduced to the student just as they entered into the Gurukula through the Upanayana Samskara. Upanayana Samskara is that with which they are taught how to meditate on that Gayatri mantra. So Prana, Apana, Vyana. Now the third meaning of it is, by balancing this Prana and Apana, what happens is through the Mooladhara, or from the Mooladhara through the Sushumna Nadi, the Kundalini Shakti is raised, and that Kundalini Shakti which is raised reaches to the Sahasrara, having reached where it now starts percolating and spreading all through the body. Like if there is a cup and the cup is being filled with whatever liquid, the tea or whatever. And once that is filled and you don't stop, it starts overflowing into the saucer. It starts overflowing from the saucer out. So the Sahasra Dala Padma, the 1,000-petaled Padma, fills with that the Shakti of the Kundalini, and then it starts dripping downwardly and spreading across. That is the Vyana. Prana, Apana, Vyana. May I have the breath, asuhu or asuhu, not asuhu. Air in general, as one of the poets says it, nishvase natu mama vishvasaha. Uchvasa is inhalation, nishvasa is exhalation, and he says nishvase natu mama vishvasaha, that there is no guarantee that the breath that goes out, exhalation that happens, the breath that goes out, there is a guarantee that it will come back again. Nobody can guarantee the next moment. That is how unpredictable is our living pattern. So the prayer here is, O Lord, may I have that breath, life breath, because of whose presence, because of whose availability, I can accomplish that very purpose or goal of life, which is moksha. Asuhu, asuhu, asuchame. And what are the two words that have to be joined in? Yajnena kalpatam. Asuchame yajnena kalpatam. I mean, it goes with every single word given. Chittanchame. Chittanchame. Now we have chittam and then manaha. Manaha, which includes mana, buddhi and ahankara, or ahankara comes later. Mana here includes the mana and buddhi. So chitta, we have been blessed by an amazing equipment of antakarana. I'm grouping all these words. One is chitta, second one is mana, and the third one is atma. It comes in the later part. I'm clubbing them so that we get a comprehensive meaning. I'll mention that I have clubbed it when we come to those words again. So Atma here means the ahankara. So we have been blessed with the most sophisticated equipment called antakarana. What is antakarana? Antakarana technically means antaha karana. Karana, equipment, that which is inside. Bahik karana, the equipments that are outside. The equipments that are outside are our organs of perception and action. Mind, intellect, memory and the ego or ahankara, these four are called the antakarana chatushtaya. The four different expressions of antakarana. Now here we are going to talk little technical language. So if it is too boring, don't sleep. Now antakarana, what is it? Technically antakarana is nothing but thought, pravritti. The textural difference of these thoughts are recognized as mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara. I can give you different examples. One example that comes into my mind right now is in chemistry, we talk about isomers. Any chemist here or anybody with a chemical field? Otherwise, whatever I say will become the finality. Isomers are those which have same empirical formula but different structural formula. Unless we see the structure of that isomer, we will not be able to know what kind of chemical is that. So the component of it, the build of it is all similar. How do we know the difference? Is how it texturally differs in reacting to different components when it is experimented with. The chemical is the same, but because of the structural difference, the way it reacts and responds to different things is different. Similarly, the antakarana is nothing but completely a thought, a pravritti. But the texture of that pravritti as to how it acts, reacts or responds, that texture defines that thought to be a mind or an intellect or a memory. Now the satsanga starts at around 7:30. So at 7:30 we are, no, at 7 o'clock we decided to come. There was a lot of work to be done, so you are debating. Should I? Should I not? It's a wobbly nature. Should I do it? Should I not do it? When it is of that nature, the thought's nature is of indecisiveness. That indecisive thought is called mind. The texture of indecisive nature is called mind. Now there is a certain clarity that has come about and you have taken a decision. The moment there is a decision that dawns in our heart, the decisive aspect of that thought makes that thought an intellect. They are nothing but thoughts. And what is thought? Thought is the subtlest form of matter energy level expression. Now, energy is also a subtle layer of matter, but there is a combination of energy and matter expressing as thought. And the thought is called a pravritti or vritti. Vritti because it is through this thought that the thought goes out through the organ of perception, perceives the world outside and loops back in. And because of this looping nature, it is called a vritti. The root word being vritta. Vritta means circular or spherical in nature. So the looping nature of the thought, therefore it is called vritti. And the character of a person is often called as pravritti, prakatita vritti. The loud expression of that thought and content through actions, words and various behavioral patterns, we decipher it as their pravritti. It is a loud expression of that vritti. Now this beautiful equipment, if we do not know how to handle it, if we do not know how to use it, we may curse it. We may curse it saying that, oh my God, I have got such a wretched mind. I have got such a turbulent mind. I have got such a disturbed mind. Congratulations, you have one. The only difference being whether it is tamed or untamed. When the horses are fetched from the wild and they are taught how to gallop, not that they have to be taught how to run, but to gallop with a person on the top and to be supportive of that person on the top, they have to be taught. And that process is called, anybody? Breaking the horse. Similarly, the mind gallops. But to gallop purposefully, it has to be broken into. It has to be tamed. It has to be disciplined. Now, in order to understand the structure of this mind, intellect and chitta, the memory, we have to go into the details of it. So what is the difference between mind and intellect? As I have already mentioned, they are all nothing but the basic construct is thought. A continuous flow of thoughts. Now they can be related to the same theme or different themes, multiple themes. And we do have this dirty habit of having multiple contents of thoughts running, and we think that they are running parallelly, but they are not running parallelly. They are happening so fast or moving so fast that we assume they are happening parallelly. At any given point of time, there can be only one thought per given moment. But the thought rotates or moves so fast that we assume that the thoughts are running parallelly, parallel processing. Therefore, we are quite liable to face accidents when we are multitasking, multi-processing. So text and call can wait, drive first. Or if the call and text is that important, stop driving, pull over, talk, text, and then start driving. If you mix this and that, there is quite a chance of accidents. I know they've been taking seriously, saying now in school zones, you have to be careful. And I find it hilarious that if you know that it is important in the school zone, why not in other zones? Apply it uniformly. Like as they have pre-installed that you cannot mess with the Bluetooth and its setting once the vehicle is in movement. You cannot mess with it. So something in the device wherein the moment it senses, it has the movement sensors. The moment there is a movement, then everything stops. Because the moment attention diverts, as in Hindi they say, on the roads back in India, they're quite poetic in their cautioning. They say, Nazar hati, durghatna ghati. If there is a lapse in your focus, because there can be only one thought per moment and one process that is happening. So how does this happen? So if we can, what do I hold in my hand? Thank you. I'm holding a book in my hand. The question was very simple. What am I holding in my hand? What is it? So you saw the form, you have heard the voice, the eyes are like trying to scan this thing that is in my hand. And the data of that has gone in. And how quick was the answer? Pretty instant. What am I holding in my hand? Book. Now, what kind of book may be difficult. But the generic answer that it is a book is easy. So in this entire processing, what has happened is the data that is received from these organs of perception, the mind, what does it do? It creates bundles of experiences. And when it does this bundles of experiences, it is quite an editor. What does it do? There is a lot of data coming from the ears in the form of sound, through the eyes in the form of forms, through the nose in the form of smell, the tongue, the taste, the skin, the touch. All this information through these 5 channels are coming. And if you have ever done video editing, have you ever? The most stupendous job. It's a painful job. I don't know why people would choose to become a video editor. It's not an easy task. Yes, there is voice, there is video, and there is a sync, and there have to be times map. The first time I started first time I was forced to edit is when I realized why they have the clap. When the movie shoot is happening, they clap. So that goes into the record, and they have a times map, and then they start finding the appropriate scenes, and then they can merge them together. Right since the moment we wake up till the moment we sleep, what is the mind doing? It is doing a flawless job. It acquires all this data and it correlates this entire data into bundle of experience, packs them together, different sources of information coming, 5 different channels. It bundles them together, packs them, and forwards it to the intellect. Now the question that I had asked was very simple. The question was, what am I holding in my hand? Now as soon as you heard that question, you started focusing on the book that I was holding in my hand. The mind bundled that experience and forwarded it. What did the intellect do? It went into the search mode. Our memory is quite an efficient memory. And thank goodness we are not stuck with lack of memory. One thing that I have found is, as the memory hard disks that are available, as the amount of data that can be stored is increasing, the amount of data that I think should be stored is also increasing. One terabyte is like nothing. The first satellite that was sent was very primitive, and our cell phones that we use are more sophisticated than that rocket that was sent. How many of you had an opportunity to see those old time computers which had the entire building was dedicated to one computer, and outside the building there was this terrace form coolers where there will be constantly water churned out to cool that system, and whatever it spewed out, those 0101, there were people who would have full-time jobs encoding, decoding whatever the zeros and ones were talking about. The first time they produced 512 megabytes computer. They had to hire the entire flight because the storage space that it required was enough for a big Boeing to carry it. And today we have these, add-ons. How many of you have more than 2 external hard disks? More than 5 external hard disks? I'm thinking of more. Now, thank goodness the memory that we have, that we don't need to lift the scalp and have plugins there. It is not necessary. And that would be the case wherein it is a direct upload, direct download. Like, I don't need to go to school. There is this software that I upload the entire medical school data up, and it goes in, and that I can see. But for the memory as such, we don't need an add-on. The internal memory is quite sophisticated. And that memory is so sophisticated that anything that I experience which is of a certain category, I enrich that memory with the new data that is provided, and I tag it accordingly. It's only about 10 years ago, after coming here, I realized that meeting so many people, invariably, how do I tag them? To remember names is a difficult task for me. I tag them and group them according to the language that they speak. Somebody took an offense to, I asked a question, what language do you speak? They said, how does it matter? I said, yeah, how does it matter? I said, no, but it matters to me. I may not remember the name, but I definitely see that I remember what languages that they speak and try to communicate to them in their language. And that is my system of tagging. You may have your own system of tagging. Like have you uploaded videos onto YouTube or something? You've done that? So after having uploaded, you have the option of adding what tags that it can be classified under. That the moment people search, that it comes under those tags, and your video is one of the most prominent ones that is out there on that tag. Similarly, up here, the memory, whatever is added in, every minute detail that we experience is added in, and every single aspect of it is tagged. So at a later stage, when we have a failing memory, it is not because that the memory is not there. It is just that the neurons that connect to those memories are not channelized properly. It's a very sophisticated system, the way the memory works. So the intellect goes into that memory, searches through all the similar looking shape, and finally comes. And in this analysis, there is so much of time, place, reference. So at this point, when he is picking up something this small in this environment, then it has to be a book. And it's an inferential knowledge. But he is showing what it is, so we can identify what it is. In that category, it is identified. All this heavy processing done under fraction of a second. This aspect of our antakarana is its sophisticated existence. Luckily, nothing of this can be tinkered around with. That's the best part. Because if it were allowed to be tinkered, and it is somebody like me, that I like to go in and start tinkering around, I would have been resetting my own antakarana to default setting every day at the evening. This is a flawless job it does, and it does meticulously, tireless job, thankless job, day in and day out. Just to give you a sense of how much data is received per second. Can you guess? Per second, about 4 gigs worth. 4 gigabytes worth data is received per second by the system inside. Just to give you a feel as to how much is 4 gigs. It's about 1,000 songs. Average song 2.5 to 3 minutes. That much amount of data is entering in. Consistently, the moment you wake up to the moment you sleep. And it has been doing a flawless job. Once we train this antakarana, there are so many mystical and mysterious aspects of the internal world and the external world that can be tapped or revealed. Such ones who had visited that realm and tapped into, they are called mantra drashtaraha rishihi iti proktaha. Rishi is the one who is a mantra drashtaraha, the one who has seen the mantra or the one unto whom the mantra was revealed, and the knowledge being. In Taittiriya Upanishad it says, Mano brahmeti vyajanat manasadhyeva khalvimani bhutani jayante. Our own antakarana is like the storehouse that can connect to the totality with immense amount of knowledge and probabilities that we can connect with. And all that can be ascertained provided we have tamed this mind. So here he is saying, O Lord, give me the capacity to tame this mind. He says, Chittanchame, Adhitanchame, Adhitanchame, all that which I have focused to study about, learn about and master them, may they be available handy on the tip of my fingers. 2 times 2, wait a second, I have to pull out my cell phone or the calculator. 2 into 2, it is 4. Not necessary. Everything that is studied, and what is the beauty or the capacity of this antakarana? Ekasantagrahitva, that once exposed to something, it should have the capacity to grasp the essence of it in one experience. Ramana Maharshi's friend and disciple Kavyakanta Ganapati Muni, and he has written various experiences with Ramana Maharshi ji, and he was also an avid traveler. He would go for various yatras and pilgrimages. He had gone once to the northwestern frontier. There is one of the 54 Devi Kshetras. One is in Peshawar, I think. Peshawar or Karachi, one of those places. So he had gone there, and in the river close by, he had gone early morning to take his bath in that river, and he sat down he was planning to sit down for Sandhya Vandana. While he was taking the bath, washing his clothes, drying it up, he saw these 2 people have a fight, have a quarrel. One beat up the other, and the local soldiers or police, whatever they were at that time, they caught both of them and they were presented. And he said that there was no proof, there was no evidence who started it all. They said, no, there was one person who was there who was taking a bath. They caught him. And he was presented to the court, and in the court it was a hilarious situation. He did not understand what they were saying, and they did not understand what he was saying. Finally, after a day and a half or 2, they found an interpreter that could exchange these words. And they thought, now this is a lost case. What is the point of having him? Even if he has seen, we can't communicate. Finally, they found an interpreter. That was a very highly sought after jobs in those days. They're called Dvibhashi, that you learn 2 or more languages and you translate it from one language to the other. So they were found, and then it was communicated. Did you witness anything? Can you say? Oh, for this you have been asking me to stay here for 2 days. I know verbatim everything that happened that day. But you just said that you don't know the language. I said, yeah, I don't know the language, but I have a good memory. I can repeat that language which I did not know as to what was exchanged between them. It is recorded. And exactly what had happened, who instigated, what said by who, and who reacted to what was narrated by him. To the shock of all the judges and people there, that he says he does not know the language, but he is repeating our language with such immaculate detail, as if he knew the language, all by just listening to it once. Nowadays we have such a pampered system wherein I listen, I record, I write, and then go home. And I see many students, right, going to the universities, they record the entire lecture, come back, listen to the entire lecture 3-4 times, and they're pulling their hair out as, you know, what exactly is happening here. I call it a pampered system because the more we provide that kind of support, the more dull that our equipment becomes. We are not challenging it enough. That is the beauty of our antakarana. Manaschame, adhitanchame. Adhitanchame, all that which is learnt, focused, and tried to gain mastery over, may I retain it at the tip of my fingers. Adhitanchame. Adhitanchame, it is the Chandasa Prayoga, but the root word is adhita. Adhita, to learn, to that which is with regards to that which has been learnt. So may I recollect that and may it be on the tip of my fingers. Adhitanchame. Vakchame. Vakchame. May you provide, like in Hanumanji's prayer, we say, Buddhir balam yashodhairyam nirbhayatvam arogata ajadyam vakpatutvancha. Vakpatutvam, having the ability, dexterity to speak, and speak in very clear, non-confusing but inspiring way. Sometimes we find people start speaking and they start from point A. The purpose is to focus and give more details about that point A. And from there they begin and they start comparing with something or referring to something, and then go into that reference and then go somewhere else and then go somewhere else, and then finally land as what was I saying? One kind. Then there are other kinds who have a clarity, have a thought, but do not have the appropriate word to communicate what they are thinking. The appropriateness of the words, the choice of the words that have to be used. And it has to be with the circumstances and the available experience of how well you can say. After listening to Hanumanji, Bhagavan Sri Ramchandra ji says that here is in disguise somebody who has mastered Nava Vyakarana. He is not a simple person. He is somebody who has a mastery of 9 different Vyakaranas. Today what we have is of the newer Sanskrit, and that newer Sanskrit understood by Panini's grammar. The before aspect of Sanskritam, there are 9 other grammars, and Hanumanji knew all of them, meaning he knew precisely how to apply, not a single word more, not a single word less. Similar precision that we find in Adi Shankaracharyaji's Bhashya. It's like an addiction. Once you understand what he's trying to say, you just can't put it down. And the beauty of it is, it's very klupta, very short. And in that short version of explanation, he packs in every possible meaning, every shade of it in those few words. And to be such precise. In speech or in writing, wherever there is punarukti, it is often considered as dosha. Punarukti, like, when we use these cliches or words that we don't have, they are like a stopgap that we apply so that we can process our thought and then get back to. You know what I mean? All these. And repeating them often makes it a dosha. You may want to pause for a while, you say, and then get back. But every sentence you have, it becomes annoying to listen to. Vakpatutva is to be able to speak clearly, purposefully, with complete conscious effort, that nothing is blurted out without due processing and the appropriateness of the words to be used when they have to be used. Vak chame. Manah chame. We have already covered mana, and in that mana word, the buddhi is also covered, antakarana. One aspect I did not cover there was the ahankara. We'll come back to that in atma chame. Chakshushchame. Chakshushchame. There's this beautiful Shanti mantra where we have the Bhadram karne bhishrunuyama devaha Bhadram pashye makshabhiryayatraha Bhadram pashyema akshabhihi. So if we know a little bit of Sanskrit, we know there is every noun is declined in singular, dual and plural. Ramaha, Ramau and Ramaha. Ramaha is plural. 3 or many, 3 or more. 2 are Ramau. 1 is Ramaha. How many eyes do we have? I am not asking Shiva, otherwise there will be 3. The rest of us, we have only 2. But here somewhere the mantra drashtaraha must have gotten it wrong. He doesn't say 2 eyes, he says plural, 3 or more. Where is the third eye? He says Bhadram pashyema akshavihi. May I perceive with the eye of intuition. The first stage is to see only that which is pure. It takes a good effort to constantly be vigilant, and because whatever input goes in, may I filter it outside, that only pure good goes in. But our life does not have that kind of luxury to constantly be exposed to only purity. The frustration builds up. I'm trying to take in only pure and all kinds of nonsense is happening. I want to run away to a place. No, stay where you are. Because that pure place should not be disturbed, right? So the second stage is that which I am experiencing, instead of branding it as good or bad, seeing it as an opportunity to learn and grow. Akshibhihi. And next word is Shrotram. So Bhadram Karnebhi Shrunuyama Devaha. That also gets applied there. May my organs of perception perceive with intuitive knowledge. First of all, let me discipline them to see the most gross aspect clearly. Let me not be temperamental and judgmental in jumping to conclusion even before I have experienced something. So may I have the openness to see without the layers of judgmental issues. Our mind is quite a challenge. Constantly it can perceive things in terms of polarity. It has to be branded into that polarity. Is it good? Is it bad? How was the satsang today? Don't answer. How was the satsang today? Immediately the mind has to brand. Even without the question being asked, it has already started branding. That is the nature. And thereby compelling the organs of perception to work according to the vasanas and the layers of impressions created within, and not perceive that which is. Strenuous effort of discipline is required at that level. Shotram Chakshuhu. Then comes the period wherein develop the inner strength in such a way that in the Yoga Shastra it is described that you think of a person and think of a place. You don't need any connecting gadget. You can actually see, you can actually hear what that person is doing or speaking. Therefore, what Vedavyasji had given to Sanjaya was not a miracle. He had just uplifted him in that Yoga Shakti. Akshivihi and Chakshuhu and Shrotram. With all this capacity of mana, buddhi, chitta and the organs of perception and action, why are you asking for such sharp instruments? Dakshascha Dakshaha. Dakshaha Karya Dakshaha. I'm not talking of Karyadhyakshaha. I'm talking of Dakshaha. Dakshaha means the dexterity. After in second chapter, Bhagavan describes the Karma Yoga Sutra. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. There, in defining Karma Yoga, in the following 3 shlokas after that, he says, Yogaha karmasu kaushalam. Dexterity in action, that karya dakshata. Whatever be the responsibility, however insignificant or however big the activity be, to be able to associate with it with such precision that every single effort is done nothing less than perfection. And we used to see this Karya Dakshata in Gurudev. The first time ever at one-on-one level where I had an opportunity to serve him. A simple task. It may appear simple. Believe me, it was not simple. The simple task that was given to me saying, you are a newbie here, so please start doing the seva. Gurudev will write letters and there will be a envelope from where that particular letter would have come. All that you have to do is his response, fold it, put it in the envelope, write the to address and from address, stick the stamp, stick the envelope and put it in one side. Simple job. And if you look at it, it is truly a paper pushing job. So first day I was there, I did namaskar to Gurudev. Gurudev looked at me and again continued writing his letters. And he said, start. He had already a stack of written letters. So I took the first letter that he had written and then I folded it and then stuck it in the envelope. He just stared at me. He must have been amused, or there was no irritation, obviously, otherwise I would have had a earful. He looked at me amused and says, and he pulled it out. This is not a grocery list that you are stuffing in your pocket. This letter is in service of that Narayana. So when the letter reaches the person, it should have the warmth of welcoming that they feel like opening. So my first lesson into how to fold the letter. That you fold it in such a way that the name and the one who has signed is clearly visible. And fold it in such a way that the moment they open it, the letterhead is visible along with the signature. And still, you have taken interest in concealing the content of it. If somebody else opens it, the content is concealed. So fold it meticulously. And he showed how to fold it. And then put it in such a way that as soon as the letter is opened, the opening part of it should not be like, some people give gift wraps. Then it is covered like this, it is covered, and then one more, and then one more, and then this tape here, that tape. And you feel such frustrated at you feel like ripping it apart. That is not how it should be. The moment the letter opened, you should feel it should be accessible, easy for them to open. And then he gave me the envelope. Ab baki karo, and the rest of it finish it. And I inadvertently took that envelope and then pulled my tongue out. Did I not say that this was for Narayana? There is that sponge there. It is wet. Wet your fingers. And then apply that dampness onto that glue that is already there. And then he took that envelope, showed it to me, and then folded it and stuck it. And then he took the stamp, knowing that by now he was very sure that this fellow had never done such job ever. So he took the stamp. He said, don't stick it in. Otherwise all the glue will be on the sponge and nothing on this. So just very lightly, breeze it through and then stick it in this corner. And then he took a pen, wrote down the address and said, this is where the address goes. And here in this corner, the from address will go. And so he wrote it down from Chinmayananda and gave the address. Folding was so meticulous. And there was one letter that he had half written, and then suddenly he started folding it himself. And I said, I will do it now. I think I know how to do it. You have taught me. He just, again, smiling to himself, He folded it 3-4 folds, opened it, and right on the crease, he started tearing it. I was like, and if we had to throw that paper away, I mean, all this was so that he could tear it exactly, meticulously, and throw it into the trash can. Even that part, how would we have done if we had to throw something into the trash? Even to throw, it appeared as if it was somebody who had physically sat down and shredded the paper in precise shape and size. He said, even that, because it has served its purpose, have the respect in treating with it, even if it has to be dropped into the trash. Dakshata. Karya dakshata. To be able to apply oneself to any minuscule level of work, to any grandeur of work, but with the attitude that it is being done to that Narayana. Therefore, every minute detail of it should be done to the perfection. Remove the concept of Narayana there, then you are no better. You would be called OCD. Obsessive compulsive disorder. Now here one word of caution. Dakshatva is applicable only to myself, not to the world around me. Otherwise, in my definition, who is a perfectionist? Perfectionist is that one who has mastered the art of perfectly being miserable. Because anything imperfectly seen, you constantly start getting agitated. I can focus on my aspect of work, my aspect of working and its expression, and maintain it to a level of perfection. And in Gurudev's case, as he had taken the responsibility to teach someone, when somebody has come as a Shishya to teach, or when you have a responsibility of your children, teach. Don't go about every place and every house and everything and constantly start, I have people that come. Suddenly they'll sit into my center table and start, all books one side. I may have it in 3-4 different categories there. I may be working on something. They'll gather all those books one side. Papers, I may have spread those papers so that I have accessibility that this is one category, that is other. They have gathered all the papers, stacked them together and put. And I come down as if, sit, don't touch anything. And the craziest is when they go into my kitchen and settle all the things that are outside in. And it will take another 6 months for me to find out where they have kept what. I can be perfect, or I can try to be perfect. It becomes a problem only when I try to stuff that into every environment that I exist in or I interact with. If it is not your responsibility, glue your hands together. Don't mess with the world around. If you are asked to help, it's a different case. Dakshatva, karya dakshatva. Balanchame, to have the strength. And all this strength is also the application of it in 3 different layers. Tamasic, Rajasic and Sattvic level. There was one Swami Ramatirtha. He was a contemporary and a big fan, I should say. Somebody who really adored Swami Vivekananda. They both had met. Swami Vivekananda had already visited US by then. And he was coming, after having come back, he was visiting various places. and he had Swami Ramatirtha had an opportunity to meet Swami Vivekananda ji. So inspired by him, he also set to explore the world. So he got into a ship. In those days, there were no flights. So he got into a ship and sailed across to wherever the ship would take him. So finally, he landed into US. In that ship, which was coming US bound, there was an American who looked at him, and he had such a perfect British English. And he knew about 6, 7 languages, wherein in each language he could write poetry. He had read through all great works in that language. So his English was quite amusing or quite attractive. So he said, who are you visiting? Do you have any friends? So he said, now that I have met you, I think I have already one friend. I mean, he had no friends, and he had just befriended this American who had come to introduce himself. And he hosts him for the rest of his trip. So one day there was some Olympic preparations happening, and he was brought into that environment. There were these laps, 100-meter dash they were practicing. And the first time he saw them running, in his own amusement, he said, "Who is chasing them?" Because you only run if somebody is chasing you. ना बंदर है, ना कुत्ते हैं, ना पुलिस है, क्यों भाग रहे हैं लोग? Why are they running? So it was explained to him that it is to know who is a better runner, and it is games at the Olympic level. Oh, they're going to the Olympics, so they are running. That should be easy. And when the people who had just the 100-meter dash overheard him say that must be easy, they got little offended. They're practicing for 6, 7 months rigorously, and they were little offended. They're saying, "Do you think this is easy? Do you want to come try with us?" And he very jovially said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" In his own innocent way. And at that time, he was wearing a single piece of cloth covering the bottom and the top. So the top he took and tied it on his waist, pulled up his dhoti and put it again, tied it like a South Indian. And he said, "Tell me, what do I have to do?" He said, "This is where we have this, you'll be said on your marks, and then this is what you have to do, and this is how you have to run, and you have to maintain that lane. You have to be in your lane. You cannot jump into others' lanes." The rules were given, and you have to reach to that point, whoever reaches first. And this was his first attempt at running, and he got third. Others were shocked. They're saying, "I'm sure you must have been practicing earlier. You must have been an athlete yourself." He said, "No, nothing like that. It is this strength, this bala. And that bala, when it has to be applied at a physical level, it is to be increased to the most rajasic expression. And that is what I did. I invoked my bala in its rajasic expression and expressed it in that direction. That bala in that sattvic is to maintain on the path, the integrity to be maintained. It is the sattvic bala. And the tamasic bala, don't consider that the tamasic bala is waste. Without the strength of tamasic bala, we would not be able to sleep. And if you are quite qualified in sleeping in this lecture, then you have already invoked it. Don't look around. It is rude. So balam chame, ojas chame, ojaha. Ojaha, the virulence, the cause for the strength, that which is said earlier. Virility. Thank you for the correction. Ojaha, ojas. Now it is this ojas that becomes tejas. Swami Shivananda Maharaj, in his Practice of Brahmacharya book, he says that the Sapta Dhatu, he is talking about the Ayurvedic language, the Sapta Dhatu conserve all their energy and bring it together, and the Sapta Dhatu Prasada, the benefit of this Sapta Dhatu is Rakta. Rakta is the blood. 80 drops of blood makes 1 drop of semen. 80 drops of semen makes 1 drop of marrow, bone marrow. 80 drops of bone marrow makes 1 drop of ojas. And it is the strength of this ojas, it is the power of this ojas that gives the initial momentum for the Kundalini Shakti to raise from Mooladhara to travel all the way across to the Sahasrara. That ojas, which reflects through as tejas. We have already seen Jyotischame Sarvadvareshu Dehesmin Prakasha Upajayate. That is the tejas. And the base for that tejas and balam is this ojas. And the one who has acquired this ojas reflects at the mental level, at the physical level as tejas. At the mental level, it reflects as fearlessness. When I say fearlessness, it is not to be understood in the cinematic way that you are surrounded by 10 thugs and you bash them all up. No. If you ever get into such situation, run. That is not called fearlessness. Fearlessness is the strength to face every aspect of our life as it unfolds without reaction, without rejection. Now that includes having transcended the fear of anxieties or fear and anxieties, having transcended the fear of failure, fear of various aspects, which boils down to that expression that they face their life without any fear at the level of mind. At the level of intellect, it is this ojas that appears as Shuddha Tattva or Shuddha Sattva, clarity. In any topic, in any field, to reach to that clarity in a very easy way. Sometimes when we start reading through it, there is still one book which is like pending in my list. Every time I pick that book, maybe 4 pages, max 5 pages I have gone through. I am yet to crack that book. It is Sri Aurobindo's Savitri. Has anybody tried it? And the single sentence runs in 4 pages. The moment you think that you found what is the subject, what is the object, what is the verb, you turn the page and you're already muddled up. At least I am. Upanishads seemed very easy. Any topic that you pick, to have that grasp of clarity, the ease of clarity is the expression of this ojas at that intellectual level. Ojaschame, sahaschame. Sahaschame, there are two meanings. The capacity and strength to stand up for that which is right, even if you have to fight and sacrifice one's own comfort or one's own life as well. If you believe that something is absolutely righteous and to defend for it, is that saha. Sahaha, the capacity to hold your ground. Another meaning of sahaha, the capacity to hold all organs of perception and action in absolute control. Absolute control meaning with the ease of accessibility. Do we have accessibility or easiness of accessibility on all these light fixtures here? Yes, no? How would you say yes? You have a switch, and when you turn it on, these turn on. When you turn it off, these turn off. Unless it is an Indian tube light. You turn it on, it takes its own while. Similarly, with the organs of perception action, to have absolute control meaning absolute accessibility, that when I need to use it in a certain field, I can apply it, and when I want to withdraw it, I can at will withdraw it. Otherwise, I'll be stuck with Abhimanyu syndrome. That I know how to get into the chakra vyuha, but don't know how to get out of that. And many of the habits that we develop are usually starting from some experimentative mode. There will be some guru for that also. Chalna, jate hai. Let's go. You have gone, but you don't know how to withdraw. Atke pade hue wahin pe. All vices, all bad habits. Control is not just closing. Closing your eyes, closing your ears, closing your mouth. When needed to open, sahaha. When needed to withdraw. And we do exactly the same thing, but in opposite circumstances. And again, I am reminded of Hanuman Chalisa. Sukshma rupa dhari siyahi dikhava, bikata rupa dhari lanka jarava. So when he approaches Mother Sita, he becomes Sukshma rupa. The story aspect is one, I am talking of the symbolic aspect. So when you are with your elders, parents and well-wishers, take a humble form. And when you are at that point wherein you have to stand up for that which is right and stand up against that which is wrong, Vikata Rupa Dhari. Take your strong, terrible form and stand up for something that which is right. And what do? Exact opposite, right? We show all our pratapa in front of parents, in front of adults and elders, and we even ridicule them. And then when we have to stand up there, dum davake. There we have, it's okay, things happen. And then we shy away and run away. Sahaha, ojaha, ayuschame. I just realized. We'll continue ayu tomorrow. I just saw it was 9. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ।